efforts ng Filipino groups mula sa grupo na buo ni Kaado Paglinawan na ang kanyang puso ay nasa Amerika pa. Kaado Paglinawan, bumalik sa Pilipinas at may sulat sa kabataan.
Alam po ninyo, magandang gabi na siguro, no? O magandang hapon sa inyo lahat. Gusto ko lang sabihin kay Mike na nung ako'y naging student leader, ako nahirang bilang Pangulo ng College Senators Bill na chairman ng Youth for Marcos re-election noong 1969. At ang aking handler, ang pangalan, Matt Defensor. Kumusta mo ako sa tatay mo? Sabi mo si Ado. Pero noong 1984, dahil bumagsak ang ekonomiya, nawalan po ako ng trabaho. Ako po ay pinakabatang Vice President ng Toyota, Delta Motor. So nawalan ako ng trabaho. At wala akong ginagawa, kundi pag Miyerkules, umattend ako ng breakfast, Christian Men's Breakfast sa Makati, kung saan ako'y nagsasalita. At nag-sharing. At sa tadhana, ang nasa harapan ko ay si Emmanuel Pelaez. At pagkatapos na aking speech, lumapit siya sa akin at sabi niya, wala kang trabaho. O ito, calling card ko. Pag-report ka sa Lunes, may trabaho ka na. Pero sabi ko, hindi po ako abogado. Ay, hindi naman kita hilahan dahil abogado. You will become part of my law office to handle the non-legal and my foundational affairs. So, yung pala, ginawa akong full partner sa isang law office, hindi dahil sa ako ay mababatas dahil hindi naman ako. Sinamahan namin si Guy Laurel, tumakbo bilang Pangulo, nasa pawa ni Connie, nanalo si Connie. Wala pa pong 2 linggo, pinatawag kami ni Connie sa Kawawa Building. Kaming dalawa ni Tito Maning. Sabi namin, bakit po? Ang sabi ni Connie, gusto kong kayo ang mamuno sa ating foreign affairs initiative for the recovery of the economy. So nagsilbi po ako ng 6-7 taon sa Washington, D.C. At pagkatapos noong 1993, pabalik-balik ako sa Pilipinas dahil kinukuha po ako ng mga cabinet members. Unang-una si Bobby D. Ocampo, Secretary of Finance, na consultant. At itong panahon ni Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, kinuha naman ako ni Sito Lorenzo sa Department of Agriculture. Pero, noong 2009, nag-announce si Mar Rojas na itadraft nilang kandidato si Noynoy Aquino. Wow! Malapit po kami kay Cory, kaya alam namin na ayaw ni Cory na maging senador yan. Ayaw ni Cory maging kandidato yan. So So, umuwalis na po ako ng Amerika, bumalik po ako dito noong 2019. At mula noon, dito na ako nakabase. Low profile, hanggang dumating ang administrasyon ni Presidente Duterte. Ito na naman, mga dating kaibigan, mga dating kakilala, refer dito, refer doon. Nagkaroon tayo ng programa sa Radyo Pilipinas, 5 taong ko pong pinagtakbo yun. Kinuha po ako ni Hermoines Esperon bilang expert, subject matter expert sa South China Sea. Kinuha po ako ni Terpin Lorizana na consultant at ipinasok ako sa LCAT as a critical reviewer. Doon ko po nakahalubilo si General Antonio Parlaque at kami po nagbigay sa Armed Forces of the Philippines ng solid support ng public relations. Lahat ng aktibidades ng LCAT properly reported ng Radyo Pilipinas. Marami pa pong iba. At ang tatakbo Pangulo, si Bongbong Marcos, dahil kay Inday Sara, ay sinuportahan namin. At siguro sumuporta rin kayo. Kaya hindi ko inaakala noong June 5, patawag ako sa TRICOM. Sa Kongreso. At ang tanong sa akin, Abante, eto na naman, abogado ka ba? Eh sabi ko, hindi po ako abogado. Eh bakit? Tinawag mong stupid itong National Maritime Law. Saan ka humuhuhod sa niya? Sabi ko, Mr. Chairman, hindi po ako abogado, pero marunong po akong magbasa. At marunong po akong umintindi ng binabasa ko. Alam niyo mga kapatid, mga magulang, mga kababayan, with all due respect to the lawyer here, marami pong abogado, hindi naiintindihan ko yung binabasa nila. Ang naiintindihan lang po, attorney's fees. Wala sila rito. Ang lahat ng abogado narito, patikan. Ang pinaka-dangerous sa abogado po ay yung alam na ko anong tama, pagpagtanggol pa ang mali. Akala po ba ninyo pinag-explain nila? Hindi po. Nilait-lait nila ako sa TRICOM. Pero kung gano'ng kataas ang boses nila, gano'n din po kataas ang boses ko. Hindi nila alam. Nandun ang anak ko, may backpack. Meron na pong damit at supplies for 5 days. Handa na po akong makontep at pakulong. Anyway, nilayan din po ni Ace Barber. Hindi na naman abogado ito. Hindi na naman. Pagka-former diplomat ito. Dahil hindi naman daw ako pastor, hindi naman daw ako diplomat. Doon ko na pagtanto na karamihan sa ating mga congressmen ngayon, puno-puno ang bulsa, pero walang laban ang utang. At anyway, ako po ay maharap sa inyo dahil sa mga kaibigan ko po sa Amerika, kami po ay nagtatayo na rin ng mga katulad nito from coast to coast. At yung po mga nasa Washington DC ay nagpadala na po ng sulat kay Donald Trump sa White House. President Donald Trump want to be President of the United States. Washington, D.C. We hope this letter reaches you in good health and spirit. We write with a deep sense of responsibility. Above all, we write to you because you have always been consistent in standing by your friends. Speaking plainly when others hesitate and defending the sovereignty of nations. One of your longtime friends, former Philippine President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, now faces a situation that should never have been allowed to occur. In a move executed quietly and without constitutional authority, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. had the PRRD over to the International Criminal Court, a tribunal that the Philippines is no longer part of, and one that has no lawful jurisdiction over him. No court in the Philippines ordered his surrender. No Senate concurrence was secured. No constitutional process was followed. It was done unilaterally, secretly, and in defiance of the nation's sovereignty. For many Filipinos and for those of us who have spent our lives defending the rule of law, this act is nothing less than an unconstitutional transfer of a Filipino citizen to a foreign power. Your voice, Mr. President, carries a weight that few others possess. You have always advocated fair treatment among nations and have consistently questioned the overreach of bodies such as the ICC. You know better than most how politics can be disguised as international justice. This is precisely such a move. What makes the situation even more alarming is the state of the Philippine presidency itself. Over the past year, the nation has witnessed a disturbing decline in President Marcos Jr.'s capacity to lead. Allegations of cocaine addiction, once whispered quietly, are now openly acknowledged at the highest levels of his own family. In fact, the entire country heard Senator Amy Marcos, his own sister, speak from a place of anguish and exhaustion. Little brother, please rest. Let us go home. A sister's plea carries no political agenda. It comes from truth. When ahead of a state's mental clarity and executive judgment are compromised at this scale, the nation enters dangerous waters. Intelligence circles in the region have long observed erratic decision-making, lack of focus, and impaired diplomatic engagement. These are not minor concerns when the Commander-in-Chief oversees national defense, foreign policy, and the safety of millions. Compounding the crisis is the sprawling flood control scandal, which has exposed a level of corruption unprecedented in recent memory. Billions of public funds were channeled into dubious projects and inflated projects. Contracts were awarded through political networks tied directly to Marcos Jr. and Speaker Martin Romualdez. The scandal has triggered concern from international partners, rating agencies, and foreign investors. In the Indo-Pacific, one of the most fragile contested regions in the world, such instability sends shockwaves beyond Manila. It weakens the economy, compromises disaster readiness, and jeopardizes the country's ability to fulfill its defense commitment. For the United States, which relies on a strong and dependable Philippine government for the Listening Forces Agreement and the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, a compromised presidency creates real strategic vulnerability. Mr. President, the Philippines is America's oldest treaty ally in Asia. The Pacific now more than ever requires stability, clear leadership, and predictable governance. When the leader of a key ally is engulfed in corruption, impaired by addiction, and unable to command public trust, the security of the entire region suffers. A weakened Philippine president affects EDCA sites, which are strategically positioned for regional deterrent. U.S. military prepositioning, vital for disaster response and force mobility. Economic investments dependent on anti-corruption guarantees. Marine security and aggressive expansionism by hostile actors. If instability in America continues, adversaries in the regions will not hesitate to exploit it. Given the scale of the crisis and the gravity of the President's personal incapacity, the only truly responsible and constitutional solution is straightforward. President Marcos Jr. must resign, not through pressure from the streets, not through extrajudicial arrangement, but through the very mechanism provided in the 1987 Philippine Constitution, a peaceful and lawful transfer of power to the Vice President. This ensures continuity, stability, and legitimacy. The Philippines cannot drift leaderless, while billions are lost, corruption spreads unchecked, and national security is placed in jeopardy. Nor can it afford a president whose judgment is compromised by addiction and whose inner circle is mired in financial scandal. Your voice, Mr. President, can help make the difference. A call from you urging respect for constitutional processes and honest leadership will resonate not only in the region but among the millions of Filipino Americans who look to you as a decisive and principled leader. Medyo mahaba pa ho, pero tatapusin na natin doon. Naghihintay na lang po kami ng signal from the White House Chief of Staff, Susan Wiles, and the rest will be history. Maraming salamat.